whatever you are looking for, whatever you could possibly hope and wish and want, is here. It's just here. And now. But there is a thin veil. Concealing it. And you know what that veil is? The veil is the longing. This longing is the veil, and this longing is the separation. Otherwise it's here. It has always been here. It was never far away.
During July and August of 1978, Dr. R.P. Kaushik, noted speaker and author from India, visited the Ithaca, New York area at the invitation of his many friends and students in America. These several weeks with the doctor were spent in quiet contemplation, meditation, and discussion. The inquiry focused on the approaches to self-awareness and the fundamental issues of individual and societal transformation. Shortly before his departure, the following interview was conducted by Stephen Harrison.
Doctor, you've been inquiring into life for some time now, in a way that seems significantly different than the traditional philosophical or religious approaches in both the East and the West. How did you come to this inquiry, if not through a guru or a particular set of techniques? And what is the nature of this exploration?
You know, when you try to express something through words, these words have a tremendous limitation. When you say without a guru, really I do not understand what you mean by without a guru. To me, the whole of life has been a guru. And to that extent, I don't think whatever I have inquired or whatever I am inquiring, I could do it in isolation. I could do it by myself sitting in some hilltop or somewhere. So, the question may have arisen again because of the interaction with the outside world. If I am living by myself, I don't think I have any problems. I would never have had any problems. The problem arose because I was interacting with the world. And the world around me was compelling me to go deeper into my life, into my way of thinking, my way of looking and acting. And obviously, with the limited information that you have, or the conditioning that is imposed on you by your environment, by your culture, that conditioning does not provide with the answer. Then you have to look. And when you look, the answer again comes from the world around you. From somewhere, because the same life which is throwing the challenge is the same life which is giving you the responses. Then I happen to be only one instrument through which the challenge and the response, they are being reflected. And now I cannot say whether there was a guru or there was no guru. If you see in a limited sense that some personal guru who could have kept on guiding me all my life from moment to moment. To that extent there was no Guru. But whenever I was in doubt, whenever there was any question, the answer did come. From somewhere, I don't know how it came, but it came. Whether it came from a book, whether it came from some word uttered by someone, whether I got intimation in some dream, and the answer was always there. And I don't think without this answer coming from the outside, I could have proceeded with my inquiry. And then, even if you look at this whole question of inquiry and discovery, I could say some 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that I am inquiring and I am discovering something new. My feeling is the knowledge that is present with the collective human psyche is there. All the experiences of the race are there, and they are available to all of us. And most of the answers come from their storehouse. And in one sense, I am discovering it for myself for the first time, but the answer perhaps pre-exists. So I even don't know whether there is a new discovery or there is something old coming up. And how far I am separate from the whole of the collective, how far I am separate from the human race. Whether I am an individual or I am just carrying on what the collective human psyche has been carrying on. I am just the continuation of the human effort. The form may have changed, but I don't see how I could disconnect myself from people who have inquired in the past, the Buddha or Ramakrishna, Raman Maharshi or Aurobindo, anybody. How could I dissociate myself from them? And had they not gone into certain discoveries, had not gone into certain experiences, certain attainments, and that was not available to us, I don't think we could proceed further. So much of our inquiry begins where other people's inquiry comes to an end. We are just taking up the thread further. So that we don't repeat the mistakes of the history. We don't repeat the mistakes committed by the thinkers and the explorers before. To that extent, I cannot see, without that knowledge, without that data, I could have proceeded further. So, unfortunately, your question poses a dichotomy, that there is a guru or there is no guru. If you see from a limited standpoint, I can say I have no guru, in that traditional sense. But if I look to the whole of life, then whole of life has been providing me answers. And I am seeing guru everywhere. But I don't think without these answers coming from somewhere, without this response coming from somewhere, you could proceed with your inquiry. This is the question coming from the divided human psyche, where you see yourself separate from the world. And when you see yourself separate from the world around you, then you want to know whether it is your inquiry or your discovery, you are with a guru or without a guru. To me, these questions are irrelevant. Now that life could take the form of a book, could take the form of a word heard passing on the road, could take the form of a person who embodies it in his life. And I don't see, if I learn from any particular source, how will it belittle the significance of that learning. And I have never said a guru is not necessary. Perhaps for most people guru would be necessary. Even in a personal form, guru would be necessary. For few, guru would not be necessary. People who can look to the whole of their life, they are not close to particular form, they are not close to certain approaches, and they are looking only to certain authorities for an answer. For those people, guru would be a must, because they cannot listen outside their framework, their image. However limited the listening may be through an image, most people will proceed from the image. Only some people who are open to the whole of life. Then no guru may be necessary. Then the whole of the life is giving the answers.
For those who do not go to a guru, for those who look to the storehouse of collective knowledge, how is that discovery made?
I don't think you have a choice. You see, when you say, I will not go to a guru, to me this is obstinacy. I think you can be only free of the guru when you go to some guru and you find it doesn't work. Then you can say the guru doesn't work. But without exploring it, without having your personal experience, because you have heard someone else and you say, look, I will not go to a guru, you are closing yourself to one aspect of life. The answer may be readily available next door. But in your life, you may look for a guru and you may never find. I think in my life I looked for a guru. Not that I decided that I will never go to a guru. I was really desperately in search of a guru. And I wished that if I could have a guru, my inquiry, my process would be very short. The way I have learned in years and years of pain and sorrow and suffering, that could have been minimized. And so I wanted a guru. I prayed to God, please God, if it is possible, let me have a guru. But the answer was no. And I was very unhappy when I looked at people like Vivekananda or other people who had enlightened gurus and how easy their life was and how I am struggling. I don't know anything. I try to read books, I try to listen to people and try to come to conclusions, and I don't know what is right and what is wrong. And you have to go through so much of toil and hard work. But then life perhaps did not intend it that way. So no guru came along. Or my questions were such they could not be answered by anyone with whomsoever I came in contact with. But I don't think you could choose that, look, I will not go to a guru or I will go to a guru. Even if you decide to go to a guru, you will never find one. It's not a matter of your choice. Because as far as I see, and it's the whole traditional understanding also in the East, that the guru cannot be found by just roaming about and going in search of a guru. Guru is not found that way. Only when you search around, go around, then it's a proof of your intensity, of your yearning, that's all. But not that you'll find a guru by roaming about and looking for a guru. Guru is something, an understanding of the heart, when you come to an understanding that you belong to here. When you come in contact with someone, and just by the mere presence, your questions come to an end. Your doubts come to an end. Not because you have been intellectually satisfied, not because some wisdom has been coming out of the lips of the guru or this person, but somehow or the other you come to a standstill, a silence, and your intellect becomes silent. And your questions are answered just by the silence, no answer positively. Then you know that you are in the presence of the guru. But if you are stimulated by someone and you have exciting experiences, they can be coming from your projections. And then if you are basing your selection of a guru on the basis of your psychic experiences, when these psychic experiences wear off, you will change the guru. So guru to me is an energy where you become very, very clear-headed, very clear that this is the point where you have come to, this is what you are looking for. Not because you have gained something positive, but because the agitation and the quibblings of your intellect have come to an end, to have come to a rest. Most people, when they went to Ramana Maharshi, Without much talking or anything, they used to have this experience, and they knew they are in the presence of the Guru. But Raman Maharishi never claimed that he was the Guru. So it's not so much a question of somebody saying, I am the Guru or you are my Guru. It is not that. It is the relationship where there is an opening, where something is rent asunder, some veil is rent asunder, your intellectual crust that you form around you of conditioning, it just cracks somewhere. That's the point that you are in contact with the Guru, whether it is from outside or inside.
Yet historically we can see that very, very few of these enlightened beings in the past were able to pass on a full understanding to those who were their disciples. They may have passed on certain experiences, but very few were able to pass on this full light. Why is that?
Passing of this understanding to another is not a matter of volition. It is not a matter of choice for the Guru or the enlightened one. Receptivity in the listener or the disciple is an important factor. My feeling is that the Guru and disciple really express two poles of the same energy. If the disciple does not have that matching intensity with which the Guru is imparting the understanding, impartation cannot take place. So perhaps the challenges in the past were such that most disciples were satisfied by a certain security which they could get from the Guru, and their inquiry ended there. And perhaps we would be doing the same thing if we did not have the experiences of the past with us available, how those movements failed, and how the challenges in our times have changed. The challenge of the time is not that there should be one Messiah or one prophet or one Guru and thousands of followers. That's no longer a challenge. Because to my mind, following destroys intelligence. So whenever there is following, there is destruction of intelligence. The Guru-disciple relationship is not one of leader and a follower. The relationship between the Guru and disciple is of two people walking hand in hand, exploring and sharing life. Only with that intensity, when they are having the same matching intensity, then impartation can take place, and then understanding can be communicated. So Guru or any enlightened man, the maximum that he can do is to keep his disciples moving, not letting them rest or stagnate, till they come to a point where they are really having the same intensity and passion which the teacher has. So I don't know, in the past maybe many Gurus or enlightened beings had not gone that far because the challenge was different. You can come upon this energy and can rest anywhere and have that smug satisfaction of arriving at a goal. And then you cannot go past that, and you cannot take any disciple past that. The disciple cannot go past what the Guru has come to, unless the disciple makes a break. So impartation can take place provided the matching intensity is there, and anyone today who has some light, it is his responsibility to see that he does not create following, but brings about his disciples to a level of intensity where impartation can take place. It may be slow process, it may take time, it may be hard work. It is a hard work and a slow process. The quick way is to create a following, give them a mantra, give them a photo, give them to worship the name or the image, and do some chanting, and they will have some psychic experiences. But in that following, there is a destruction of intelligence. The energy is not carried further. This has happened in case of even people like, I think, even Aurobindo, who was very much passionately and intensely trying to bring the supramental consciousness on earth. But then, at a certain point, when he found the communication was so difficult, the disciples had to come to the Guru every day in the morning or at certain specific times to have his darshan and imbibe this energy and carry it further. In that process, it may be easy to communicate the energy, but at the same time you are enforcing certain images. You are enforcing some concepts of time and space. So whereas you are making it easy, you are also making it difficult, that the energy is no longer pure. So a constant readjustment or shifting of your emphasis has to take place from the form to the formless. And can a guru take his disciple from the realm of the form to the formless? To that extent is his success, is his achievement in impartation.
We've been seeing a phenomenon in this country over the past decade, which has been called the emergence of the New Age or the Aquarian Age. Many people are involving themselves in various forms of meditation and psychic exploration. Is there really a new consciousness emerging, or what really is taking place?
This energy is already open to the human consciousness. So it's no longer a question of bringing down this energy on earth, it's there. And many people are touched by it, whosoever are open. But how far any particular individual will go will depend what is his or her goal. What do they want? What do they expect? So if you have already some image of this new age, then I think you have already limited it. Then you are trying to bring about a modification through certain techniques. And none of these techniques is new. It's important to understand that all these techniques are old, or modifications of the old. And they have been tried in the past and they have failed. If they had not failed, the whole thing would have been going on. It would have never been extinct or lost to humanity on a larger scale. So the very fact that it was extinct means that it was not applicable at some stage or the other. Now you can revive these techniques, and through that revival you can produce some phenomena, some effect, some result. But that result is a psychic phenomenon. That's not a transformation. So if you have any image or you have any particular technique to bring about this transformation, you have already limited it and you will not go past that. It will be a certain modification, and modifications have been going on all along. For a total transformation to take place, before the techniques can be touched, before you can use these techniques, freedom has to be discovered. And freedom is the freedom from self, freedom from the ego. Without this freedom from the self or freedom from the ego, there is no intelligence. And only when this impersonal intelligence uses these techniques may have some value. Otherwise, when when the self or the ego uses these techniques, there is one of tools of power and only tools of accumulation of and strengthening of the self and ego. So I don't think a basic transformation will take place that way.
What is it that will bring about the transformation then?
Transformation can be only brought about by, first of all, a simple self-awareness and finding out what you really want or what you really don't want. And what are you? Who are you? Who is the seeker? Who is the experiencer? Without basically answering that question, if you're looking for answers, those answers will be half answers, not true answers. So first thing is a self-awareness and an inquiry into the nature of self, into the nature of your own conditioning, and to discover what you are from moment to moment. What are your complexes? What's your thought process? What are your hopes and fears and ambitions and dreams? To look at all that. And only when you look at that and look at that choicelessly, and it comes to an end. And in that state, when this self has come to an end, there is silence. And in that silence, intelligence is taken over, which has no compulsiveness, which has no anxiety, no tension, no conflict. When the mind is only an instrument of perception, then it sees and moves. Only when the mind has come to a point of perception, when it sees and moves, but does not come in conflict, in struggle, in effort, only then intelligence is awakened. So then, from that state of relative freedom, where intelligence is taken over, techniques may be used or may not be used. I'm not sure whether with the full awakening of intelligence, techniques would be necessary. Because sitting here, you could say techniques may be useful in that state. But when you reach that state, you find every day the intelligence itself can create its own techniques. The old techniques may not be necessary. Because I know in my own experience that what people have done in the past in 10, 20 years, people today could do in 10 days or 10 hours or 10 minutes. There was a time, there's still a sect in India, and there are the old sect, Sufis and saint sect, what you call Santmat, who are talking of the world and the subtle sounds and ahat sounds. They used to give a long discipline of mantra recitation, and then this mantra recitation will lead to subtle sounds, and subtle sounds will bring light, and then light will take you further, and there were various stages of unfoldment of this world. And many people would not be able to hear these subtle sounds after years of practice. It was a great achievement if they could hear these sounds. And today we find that many people just hear them without doing anything. Anyone who pays little attention, he can hear these sounds. So once the mind has become little sensitive, that mantra won't be necessary. If the mind has come to a certain sensitivity, these techniques won't be necessary. Some of these techniques are necessary to heighten the sensitivity of the mind. Not total sensitivity, but a relative sensitivity of the psychic level. So there these techniques had some value, but today we find that these techniques are becoming less and less necessary. People just come to it. And we have seen in the past also, some of these teachers who were traditionally trained through a mantra and things like that, their guru gave them a mantra. Many of these gurus have stopped giving mantras further. They are not giving it. I know of one or two gurus, teachers, who were initiated into this Tantra technique. But now they find that it's not necessary. So whether a technique would be necessary or not, it will depend upon the challenge. You cannot say beforehand that a technique is necessary, and techniques would evolve.
But the techniques may be useful after realization to
Could be
integrate.
if necessary. Could be if necessary. There is no bar, because you still need a technique for building roads, for building houses. You may need certain techniques to bring about healing, certain techniques for materialization if you need to have some materialization done or actualization done. And I don't think there will be any problem, because in any realization or actualization, thought would be necessary. I don't think without the use of thought, intelligence can create anything material, anything substantial. So, thought is the mother of technique. So in what form thought is used, that is called a technique. But thought would still be necessary at any level to create. So how thought will be created? The technique will be small or big, complicated or simple. That has to be decided. Some techniques are better than others. There are certain simple techniques. You may not need very complicated techniques. But in the field of actualization or realization of this energy into the individual and social life, that actualization, thought would be necessary. And that means technique would be necessary, how simple the technique may be. And then there will be no conflict about it.
There are in existence certain techniques that seem to be similar to this inquiry. They're the Buddhist Vipassana exercises of cultivating mindfulness, or the Zen technique of just sitting and looking. Is it possible to cultivate this awareness? Or is it possible through these techniques to bring about this understanding, this transformation?
When you cultivate awareness through these techniques, the technique becomes important. Not the awareness, but the technique becomes important. And then technique becomes so holy or sacrosanct that you almost swear by the technique. You preach that technique. That becomes an article of faith. Now this technique will bring about a certain sensitivity of the psyche, as I said before. Certain faculties of the mind can be awakened. So the mental instrument will be refined. There is no doubt about it. With any of these techniques, when the concentrated energy is focused in one direction, there will be heightened sensitivity and increased capacity of the psyche. Many new faculties will open up. But the only question is, with these techniques, can the mind free itself of the center which is the accumulator, the center which is the collector of all these achievements and experiences? And the problem is not of Vipassana or anything. Question is of the center which is accumulating ideas, principles, theories, beliefs, experiences, knowledge, and strengthening itself. What would be the factor which will bring about the disintegration of that center? Can Vipassana bring it about? Can cultivated mindfulness bring it about? So if it can, then it will be fine, but I don't see how it will do it. If it does for someone, I have no objection.
We're seeing now in the West many teachers coming from the East teaching Tantra, or Tantric techniques. What is Tantra, and what is the use of male energy, female energy? How are they integrated?
Tantra is actually a Sanskrit word which comes from two roots, tanu and tra. Tanoti trayati. That means trying to find your liberation through expansion of your consciousness. Finding your freedom through expansion of consciousness. And the moment you see the definition, that then Tantra is no longer a Hindu system or an Eastern system, the Christian mystics or the Sufis or anybody who have been expanding this consciousness by mind expanding drug or by through mantra or by relating to a higher will or image, that's all Tantra. And therefore the Buddhists also have to incorporate it. So there is Buddhist Tantra, there is Hindu Tantra, and in Hindu Tantra there is Shaivite Tantra, there is Vaishnavite Tantra, there are so many forms. The basic question is expansion of consciousness, and through that expansion of consciousness finding your freedom. So obviously it is true that if you can expand your consciousness, relatively you become free. You are living in a small prison and you increase the frontiers of that prison. Then you don't live in a small prison consisting of 10, 12 or 100 rooms, you are a prisoner on a big island. No room, nothing, you are a big island. Thousands of square miles of island, you are a prisoner there. So your prison has expanded. To that extent that freedom comes. And some people perhaps did touch the supreme energy through that. They did come to liberation of freedom, total integration of life. But one who came to it, when he started trying to communicate it through these forms, it could not be communicated. Because the recipient is looking for something else. He gets stuck up somewhere whenever he gets power. And in these, the use of symbols, the formulas, is important. So whole of these magical rituals in the West is in form of Tantra. And if you are going to find this expansion through concentration. So you have to concentrate your mind, and for concentration you need a formula and you need an object for concentration. So you have rituals and you have objects on which to concentrate. For mind it's easier to concentrate on certain symbols to which it is naturally attracted. So the symbol is chosen according to your inner urge or your choice. There are powerful symbols, and with those symbols the mind energy can be concentrated so strongly that the realization or materialization takes place very quickly. So the actualization takes place very quickly through these tantric techniques, the shortest way to come in to create reality. So through these tantric techniques you can bring about different levels of reality or actualization into existence. But same question is, without the understanding of the self, without the understanding of the experiencer, all this achievement and actualization and realization amounts to nothing. It still creates division.
For a moment, can we go into the aspects of Tantra which seems to be communicated in the West, at least, primarily in terms of male and female energy? The purification of those energies, the unifying of those energies to bring about realization. What is that process?
You know, if you look all along anywhere, everywhere on the gross material level you can see male and female energies. It's very simple. The whole symbology is male and female energy. Freud has gone so far to interpret those symbols that he could see sex everywhere. But what I am saying is that if you look within yourself, you will find two different energies, male and female. The intellect and the emotions. The intellect being the male and the emotions being the female. The intellect being dominating, the emotional side being submitting, withdrawing. So basically the male energy is the dominating energy and the female energy is the submissive, withdrawing energy in the human life. Not actually. This is the reversal of the process. Man, because of his powerful intellect and his muscular power, he has dominated the female outside, and in the same way this powerful intellect has stifled the emotional life completely. So not only the male is dominating the female outside, the male inside is also dominating the female inside. Female is the creative principle which has not been allowed to express. Beauty you cannot create through mathematical formulas. You need certain softness, the quality of heart, for the female energies to express. So only when the male and the female are harmonized in the human body, a transformation can take place. When they are balanced, then it's neither the male nor the female, neither is the intellect nor the emotion. It is intelligence. It's love. Love is neither intellectual or emotional. It's an expression of intelligence.
Another part of this New Age movement is what is called holistic health, which seems to be an attempt to treat the whole being, the whole person, as opposed to suppressing the symptoms. And also we see psychic healers and faith healers who seem to be working on a deeper level than the physical. But no one seems to have found the basic causation of disease or how to eradicate it. What is that cause, and is it possible to do away with it once and for all?
When you are talking of this holistic approach, I think this holistic approach is a derivative of this natural hygiene or naturopathy. The naturopathy does not separate disease from health. So it's a holistic concept that the cause and effect are one and the same. Disease is an expression of health, not divorced from it and separated from it. The modern medicine or the allopathic approach is the approach where you think disease is separate from health and you cultivate one at the expense of another. You fight disease and build up health, and the struggle ensues and conflict ensues. So that's the dualistic approach. And the holistic approach, as I understand it, is to see disease as a manifestation of activity of the vital organism to throw out noxious influences. Then disease becomes a process of elimination of the poisonous substances, not something to be feared, not something to be fought against, but just to let the elimination take place and healing come about. No, but as far as I am concerned, I am not looking at disease from that standpoint anymore. After having gone through all these various approaches of healing, the allopathic approach, the homeopathic approach, naturopathic approach, psychic healing, mental healing, autosuggestion and all that, I am looking at disease from a different angle. To me, disease begins in the psyche. And a psyche which is in conflict cannot be free of disease. psyche in which there is division cannot be free of disease. So the conflict in the psyche is the disease, whether it manifests only on the psychological level or it expresses on the physical level as well. So on the psychological level, conflict must end for health to be. But this conflict can end on very superficial level. But that will not free you from disease, it will give you a relative better health. If you can come to this ending of division in the psyche on all levels, superficial as well as deep, and the energy of unity has started expressing in your life. And when you bring this unity of life as a day-to-day reality in your everyday life, you live it, you realize it. Only in that state there is a total freedom from disease. If you have a division between you and the environment, if you are different and the trees are different, the plants are different, then the pollen is going to affect you, then you are subject to effect from the pollens. If the animals are outside you, there is a division between you and the animal's poison is going to affect you. If you are separate from this outside environment, then the pollution is going to affect you. But when you start living in this energy of oneness, non-duality, and it becomes an actual realization, disease has ended completely, on the psychological level as well as physical level. And at that point, the body starts undergoing changes, moving towards immortality. There is freedom from disease and freedom from aging. And as far as I can see, perhaps aging is related to certain memories and death is also related to certain memories. The reality in which we are living is our own creation. I see that the reality which we live, we believe in infection, and infection is there, infection has an effect on us. By a certain transforming process in the mind, if I can block this memory of infection, bacteria is the cause of infection in my consciousness, my body becomes relatively immune to the bacterial invasion. So, the reality is created by thought from memory, and we live in it. And even if we come to the silent mind, in that silent mind also we are subjected to these laws of nature. And laws of nature, there are different laws of nature on different levels of reality. There is not one single law holding good for all the levels of reality. So once you start living on that level of reality where there is no division, there is no bacterial invasion, there is no infection, the body becomes immune to infection. But so long as you have this memory of infection and disease caused by certain foods or certain substances, certain poisonous substances, certain bacteria, viruses, you are subject to it. When you have wiped off this memory of infection from your psyche, these viruses and bacteria as cause of disease, because you see bacteria and viruses threatening your existence. you are separate from the bacteria and viruses. When you can bring this unity into life, this non-duality into life, that life is one whole, there is no division in it. And it's not only a mental concept but an actual realization which is taking place in your life. Then pollen and viruses and bacteria cannot do damage to your body. And even in the past people have done that. They have been able to go even beyond the effect of elements. Like fire, water has no effect on the body if you come to a certain state of consciousness. So the fundamental answer to disease is not through homeopathic approach or naturopathic approach or massage or herbs and things like that, or psychic healing. Fundamental question of disease is related to the total transformation of the psyche, of the human mind and human body. Only with that total transformation, body and mind will be free of disease. So, when we were discussing this holistic approach to health, I mentioned that the concept of holistic health is rooted in natural hygiene, where disease and health are not divided, but it's one single movement of vital energy. And disease being a symptom of elimination, whatever was not needed in the body, it was being thrown out. But if you look from the angle from which most people are looking now, perhaps I don't know whether people who are organizing these schools in this system, they are seeing it from that point. They are seeing it more from the viewpoint of the unity of mind and body. That the mind and body, they are not two separate things, it's one thing. Because I don't think they are talking much of disease and health being one and the same thing. That will have to go a little deeper to understand. Otherwise, you'll make compromises with disease process and you would say, look, health is nothing but a mixture of the two. So mixture of the two is not health. So when you're talking of this unity of body and mind, it's very important to understand what do we mean by that unity, and what is mind and what is body. Body we see, body is definable in time and space. You can see the body, feel the body, it's located in time and space. You can see the changes taking place in the body. But have you any idea about the mind? What the mind is, where your mind is? Can you feel and locate the mind? And if you cannot feel and locate the mind, then mind is going to be only a concept for you. Then you are dealing with the body through a concept. Do you see the difficulty? So, in order to bring this holistic approach completely within the ambit of your understanding, you will have to explore what mind is. So it's no longer a concept. Now we know the mind is not located inside the body or outside the body. It's a field of energy which is created by the movement of thought. When thought moves in its process of exclusion or identification, it creates the frontiers of the mind, the boundaries of the mind. This is mine, this is not mine. This is my country, this is not my country. This I like, this I don't like. So with these likes and dislikes, with identification and exclusion, I define the boundaries of my mind, and within that boundary I suffer or enjoy my life. There is pleasure and pain. So obviously, time is the basis of this mind, because it's built through thought, through memories. It's time. All the memories are related to time. But as to this space, is the mind limited to space, or thought limits it? So when I see that thought limits the mind, and it's my creation, and then I stop this fabrication, this defining of the boundaries of the mind. When thought comes to an end, mind is freed from the boundaries of space. It is spaceless. So when I see that my mind is spaceless, not limited to space, the eternity is the boundaries of my mind. The infinity is the boundary of my mind. When I am not involved in a process of identification or exclusion, in the process of likes and dislikes. So mind is completely free state, is totally free from space. It has transcended space. But it's now still defined by time, through memories. Now, if I start looking at myself, at the collection of my memories, through time, then I find that certain memories apply and certain memories have become non-functional. Certain memories are necessary for survival and functioning, individually and socially, and certain memories have become obsolete and meaningless, and they hinder the movement of my individuality, my body and my mind. So then begins a process of wiping out the memories which are non-functional. And here I must emphasize, this is not a question of thought or the me or the ego doing it. Here entirely a new element comes into operation, that's intelligence, which is not individual but is collective, is total, is not fragmented. So now intelligence takes over the function of wiping off those memories which are not functional, which are obsolete. Me, mine, my pleasures, my likes, my dislikes, memories of health, memories of disease, memories of pain, memories of cancer, fear of death, all these memories. So can the mind, memories of limitation, lack, now these memories have to be wiped off. And once these memories have been wiped off, you are free of time. The mind is free of time also. So mind has to go immediately. Through perception, immediately it has to go from the limits of space into spacelessness. Into eternity, it has to make a jump straight away. This is timeless. But the working on the memories which are non-functional and wiping off of that record is a process which may take time. So this is the process in which the psyche gets involved once the space created by thought comes to an end. The limit created by thought comes to an end. So first stage I would call the stage of spiritual transformation. When thought stops making these boundaries, that's spiritual transformation, which is timeless. And second stage of intelligence operating in the psyche, where these memories which are obsolete are wiped off, is a process in chronological time, not in psychological time. Psychological time is over. And now, then can I see myself not as limited to the body, but as an intelligence, as an energy which is manifesting through timelessness and spacelessness. And can those perceptions, those understandings can be translated into the body? Then my body, my mind is free of psychological hurt because there are no memories of hurt anymore. Mind doesn't store hurt. And when it doesn't store hurt, it does not perpetuate hurt. It does not store the memories of sickness, so it does not perpetuate sickness. Some sicknesses may come. For example, I may have a sore throat or a cold, but instead of lingering on for 3 days or 3 weeks, it may be over in 3 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours or a day maximum. The cold running into 3 or 6 days may just come to an end in 3 hours. Just a sneeze and it's finished. Just because this symptom may still come because it has to reflect a certain sensitivity what is happening in the environment. So now a sneeze or a cough is no longer sickness to me, but is an instrument of sensitivity, of seeing, perceiving what is taking place in the environment, atmosphere, but it's no longer a disability. You understand? So only when I bring about a total transformation in my mind, in my psyche, through this observation and perception, and wipe off the memories of disease in the mind, in the psyche, can the body be really totally healthy and free of disease? And then another question. The question may arise through positive assertion, through certain formulas, can I build up health? Because the auto-suggestion is also part of this holistic approach as far as I think. I think that is not so. If I build health through auto-suggestion, through assertion, then the opposite thought is being suppressed somewhere. The psyche will not be totally free from that suppression. Through auto-hypnosis or suggestion, you will bring about an outward change in form, but deep down, the fear of sickness and fear of death is still hanging on somewhere. So, you are not thinking in terms of creating positive health. Though this is one of the approaches to think of creative positive health, have the image of positive health, give yourself this assurance and feedback and auto-suggestion, I am better and getting healthier and healthier. You can go on doing that. But I think more important than that would be to see that there is no such thing as good health. There are no memories of good health. When you are really healthy, there is no memory of good health. Memory of good health only comes when you are sick. Good health is the state of being, total functioning. Efficient functioning is a state of health. But good health has no memory. As, you know, they don't have healthy genes. They have only unhealthy genes. So you don't have to cultivate healthy genes, you have to only wipe off the unhealthy genes. An unhealthy gene is nothing but memory organized on the cellular level. Of ill health, memories of ill health organized on cellular level. You can wipe that off through perception, through this process of observation, meditation, and then the psyche is free of hurt, psyche is free of disorder and disease and conflict, and so is body. Body is undergone a transformation. That's the final answer to the question of health. Not any particular technique of massage or auto-suggestion or auto-hypnosis as being holistic. Now, I think you said something about Aurobindo also. Now the question comes, Aurobindo formulated this theory all right, he could see it, he had this vision. And I see there is a great validity. But to my mind, if you have immortality as a goal, and you are trying to seek immortality in time, that time is death. You know, you will be surprised, in India, in Sanskrit, the word for death is also time, kal. So in Sanskrit, kal means time and kal means also death. So once you live in this time, mortality coming somewhere at the end, you've already postulated your end. There is no end. So even my feeling is people who have had this long life, longevity, centenarians, they have not had this longevity because they were working for this goal somewhere, but they were living their life fully, from moment to moment, without wondering, without thinking that they will live long or short. But once your mind is carrying the idea of immortality, then it must carry the idea of death inside. The opposite idea must be there. And therefore death must take place. If you are carrying the idea of health in your mind and trying to build health through one technique or other, even by wiping these memories, disease is there. So can you see what is to be done and you do it, and you then start living. Wiping off the goal in the distant future. Then your body has started expressing freedom from aging, freedom from disease, and freedom from death. How far it will go, let us not worry about that. But if you are constantly anxious about the result, that anxiety is the death. It's going to take place. So the whole humanity is moving that way. Once we see the direction and we start moving on that, I am moving on that. My body may survive for another 10 years, 20 years or 30 years, 40 years, I do not know. It may survive for 100 years, 1000 years, doesn't matter. But so long as I see it clearly and I start moving on that, immortality becomes a fact for humanity. How far it will express in my body, it does not matter. It will express in subsequent generations. But the basis for immortality has to be laid in the present, not in the future. You have to start to learn to live in timelessness. And this energy of transformation is the energy of timelessness. The energy of immortality is timelessness. The energy of rejuvenation is timelessness. If you are living in the world of thought and division, aging must take place. You can slow it down. You cannot end it. But if time has come to an end as thought, mind is not wasting its energy on thought through conflict. And mind is expanding into this consciousness of unity with the whole universe. It's living in this unity of the universe as a fact. Not as a flash sometimes, not occasional glimpses sometimes, but as a, let me use the word, as a constant experience. As your constant experience is to be sitting on this chair or being on this earth is a constant experience, so can it be your constant experience that you are one with the whole of the universe and there is no division? If you can live in that reality of non-division with the universe, then you are the universe. Universe, no agents in the universe can destroy your body. Nothing in the universe can harm your psyche or your body if you live in this unity. That's a miracle. That's the power of the mind which lives in this unity. That's indestructible. But you'll have to come to it by a conscious realization. It won't happen automatically. Even when you come in contact with this energy, this universal energy or energy of non-division or eternal energy, rejuvenation and immortality will not come as a byproduct, will not come by itself. You still have to work for it. And to work for it is to actually realize it in your day-to-day life. That means you will have to bridge the gap between this energy and the material and the mental universe. The mind and matter has to become a vehicle for this energy. Only when it starts manifesting on mind and matter, then immortality becomes a fact. Youthful vitality becomes a fact, because immortality could have two aspects. You might be having a long life, but you might still be looking an old person. So first will be rejuvenation, and then there will be immortality. And at that point, I would say that is the direction in which humanity is moving, or has to move, to find the solution to all its ills, to find total security, psychological and physical, where it cannot be threatened by anything in the universe. And to me, that is new consciousness, that's the new age. Not this mumbo jumbo of having some dancing and singing, some chanting. This is not new age.
So what you're really indicating is that it's possible to take a quantum jump in evolution. You're talking about a total transformation of the physical body.
Yes.
Which in the past has taken, even for the smallest change, millions of years for the body to change, to respond.
In the past, it has taken millions of years to bring about the changes, because the evolution was proceeding on an unconscious level. Now, with the conscious realization of what is taking place, it can be expedited and accelerated. So, conscious intelligence had not started manifesting in the universe, on this planet, in those times, and therefore it took a long time to evolve these forms. Now, with the whole experience of the evolution, whole history of the evolution, all the pitfalls, now here we are. But here, as I said before, you have to differentiate between Aurobindo postulating this evolutionary jump and what I am saying. That this conscious realization or conscious impetus into the evolution has to take place through timelessness. It must still take time. In the physical organism, it will take time. 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, I don't know how long it may take. But it could be much shorter if this unity in the psyche can be brought about completely. The psyche is completely freed from conflict. And time has to be wiped off as a goal. Not goal in the future, goal in the now. In whatever measure you may express, it doesn't matter. But the mind has to live in timelessness. The energy of timelessness only will bring about this transformation. And then it's not a distant future, it's not a distant goal. It is realizable within our lifetimes.
So death may become a thing of the past, but what so many religions, so many philosophies have gone into this area of death and created many ideas about death, rebirth, karma. What is death then? And is there any truth to any of these ideas? And how does it apply to this life that we're living?
As you say, the idea, death may become an idea. That is, perhaps may happen. Because if you see, even technologically, we are advancing towards the direction. Not that you have to come to it through yoga or change in consciousness. This whole field of organ transplants is taking us in this direction. And there is so much research going on longevity. And it could be a breakthrough may be made through some chemicals, through transplants. There are so many approaches, but they will be still limited. Without the change in consciousness, immortality will come, will be just like immortality of the plastic. The plastic is immortal. They say it cannot disintegrate, it just stays as it is. But the human body, if it becomes like plastic, it will be of no use if there is no change in consciousness. So we have to proceed from the change in consciousness and then to immortality of the body. Now, actually the moment your mind is free of this fear of death in the psyche, the idea is finished. And fear being idea, death is not a fear. Death is not terrifying, but the idea of death is terrifying. So when the mind is free of this fear of death, because no longer caught in the thought process, immortality has come on the intellectual level, on the psychic level it has come. But this immortality has to express further. And it will express further through the body when the deeper layers of memory will be erased, which harbor this conflict and fear of death, infection, disease. So that will have to be wiped off. And that immortality the mystics had. On the psychic level, the psychics, the saints, the yogis, they all had it. But now the question is to translate this immortality from the psyche onto the physical. This will take place only when the memory of all disease, all defective memory is wiped off from the psyche. Now, in the psyche, when you come to a point when you are not hurt, you cannot have a psychological hurt. Nobody can hurt you psychologically. With any rash words, any insult, any denunciation, anything, when they cannot hurt you. Nobody can hurt you psychologically. The basis of immunity from hurt on the physical level has been laid. Then body can be free from hurt also. Nothing will be able to hurt your body. But the ending of hurt has to take place on the psychological level first. If you are susceptible to hurt on the psychological level and you are trying to bring freedom from hurt, accident and disease on the physical level, your body will be just like plastic. So as I was saying, life is a continuity. But when the human mind thinks in terms of continuity, you have to see from what standpoint the mind is thinking about it. Whether the soul is some eternal principle which is continuing with all its beauty, with all its fragrance, it takes reincarnation and goes from reincarnation to another reincarnation, expressing the wholeness of life. Or it is some small collection of petty memories of jealousy, hate, violence, acquisitiveness, competition, collection of those memories which you call the soul, which reincarnates and repeats endlessly from one existence to another. So for most of us, when we are living such a petty, shoddy life of competition, hate, jealousy and violence, I think continuity must end. The problem is not whether the continuity is there or is not there, but the question is this continuity must end. And to postulate that in time a transformation will take place. In time, soul will undergo certain changes and break will take place. In time, modification will take place, but complete mutation or break cannot take place. This is one thing to understand. So this whole idea of reincarnation, there is some substance to it. Because after the death of the body, something survives, thought survives. Your tendencies, your memories, they survive. It's part of the collective consciousness. And they may get identified with one particular new body which is being born. And through that identification there is continuity. But to me, the real birth would be not identification of thought with a new body, but the creation of a new body through a universal mind which is trying to express itself. So each body being expressed as an expression of this eternity, of this universal mind, which has no limits, which has beauty and fragrance. So that would be real reincarnation, or real birth. And then the question comes whether this will continue. Point is, once the human mind has come to that point, it is deathless. And then real continuity or immortality will express. At the moment, what we are calling continuity is a continuation of fear, anxiety and tensions. I think that must end. And so seeking consolation in reincarnation and rebirth is silly, because what is going to be reborn? All your pettiness and jealousies. And I don't see, when I don't change today, what miracle is going to happen tomorrow that I'll change? How can I hope to change tomorrow? If I don't change in this birth, how will I change in the next birth? So if I'm seeking a hope in the next birth to bring about a change, why don't I change just now? So the human mind is using this reincarnation as a means of postponement. This is an idea which is being used as postponement. And I think the earlier we can free ourselves of this idea is better, because it is hampering the movement of evolution. Every idea has validity. No idea is absolutely totally false when it is holding the psyche for so long. It has become part and parcel of the human psyche. And therefore, once it is part and parcel of the human psyche, you can't say it is false. It is not true. The question is how this idea is being used for stagnation. And therefore this idea must end, and let's find out true immortality and true eternity.
We're in a world with apparently 4 billion people who see their individuality, who create wars, who pollute, who keep food from each other. How is it possible to bring about this transformation to the entire world?
Each one of us are violent because we are insecure. Violence is not inherent to human nature. Violence is only an expression for search for survival, search for security. Greed and possessiveness is coming out of insecurity. So when the whole human race is struggling for the survival, it's only expressing that immortality, is expressing that seed which is there in the whole human race. And therefore I don't see that this human race is condemned simply because they are violent. All that the humanity has to learn is that that is not the way of security. There is another way of security. So you'll have to offer to human beings a real way of security. And once the real way of security is there, everybody can give up these petty jealousies and petty quarrels and violence. War, violence, everything is coming out of that insecurity and fear. And if you and I can understand that insecurity cannot end through violence, but cannot come through thought, can only come through contact with this absolute energy. By realizing this energy in our life, then only security can come. When nothing in the universe threatens you. My feeling is that if you come to this realization that you are one with the universe and there is nothing else except in this oneness, You can come to a point where nothing can threaten you in life. That's the only security, otherwise you are always insecure, whether you go on the road or you are in the house. There is a fear of burglars, there is a fear of accident, there is a fear of disease, there is a fear of atomic war, there is a fear all the time. So to my mind, life in every form is expressing this divine essence, this search for security. Why? Because, not because we are insecure, but because our bodies are expressing survival. Every cell is striving for survival. The brain cells are striving for survival. So whole of our life, the thought itself is thinking of survival, is trying to perpetuate itself. All that thought has to learn, all that body has to learn, that survival does not lie this way, not through war and competition, but by seeking security in this absolute. And then transformation is available to everyone.
Okay, it's available to everyone. Is everyone interested? Is everyone going to take it? Is everyone going to be available to it?
That is for everyone to decide. Those who won't take it will be destroyed. So we are coming to a critical point where either you act intelligently or the destruction is impending. So if you don't take it, you don't take it, that's the end. And my feeling is the human life is expressing intelligence somewhere. It may not be very clear and manifest. It may be in the seed form. It may be latent somewhere, but it's there. Most people will accept it. Question is, can you communicate it to them rightly? If failure is ours, we cannot communicate to them. And we blame humanity, that humanity is petty and jealous and conditioned, they can't listen, they don't want to change. No, I don't think so. Everyone would change, everyone would be willing to change if you can communicate. So people who have come to this understanding of this light, they have not been able to find the means of communication. They are still struggling with the limited forms of communication, the old traditional approaches. Or if those new revolutionary approaches which are coming, some of them are so blunt, so shocking, that most people are not prepared to understand what's going on. So can those of us who have some understanding of what is taking place find out the proper means of communicating to others? That's the problem, not that 4 billion people cannot change because they are stuck up with their petty jealousies and things like that. I don't think that's a problem.
Doctor, for one who meets you, what is the relationship and what is the responsibility?
To my mind, anyone who meets me and who listens to me is one who is totally open to me. And if I may say so, the word has been much abused. There is a quality of affection, quality of love, relationship. Without that quality of love or affection or relationship, listening is not possible. We cannot listen to another if there is no love, no affection. So, if someone can listen to me and meet me, we are meeting through love, through affection. And that love and affection is the transformation, not the listening and meeting. So if the love and affection can touch your heart, that's the organic alchemy. Not the words what are being spoken, and not certain gestures or questions and answers which are being discussed. Because all those questions and answers could go purely on the intellectual level. But what is sustaining is the transformation where the mind is touched by love and affection. Love and affection being energy of the other world, not of the mind or matter.
Thank you.